Started teaching when I was 24. I was fresh out of college, fresh out of the credential program. But I knew before then that I wanted to be a teacher. I knew when I was still in high school that I wanted to be a teacher. And it's all my grandfather's fault. My grandfather was a guy named Roger Ridley, and even now, he still was the smartest man I've ever met. You know, he spoke multiple languages. He was a World War II veteran. He was a doctor, and he changed my life. I was 12 or 13, and I would go visit my grandparents all the time. I was visiting, and there were so many books at my grandparents' house. They were both avid readers, and one time I was goofing around, you know, like you do at Grandma and Grandpa's house. And Grandpa brings me into the guest room, and they had these floor-to-ceiling bookshelves that were just stuffed with books. Some names that I would come to recognize later, but almost none of them meant anything to me at the time, except like the Curious George books on the bottom shelf. But he handed me a little tiny volume of poetry. It was A.E. Houseman, a Shropshire lad, and he asked me to read a couple of poems for him. When I was 1 and 20, I heard a wise man say, "Give crowns and pounds and guineas, but not your heart away." He said, "You have an excellent voice for reading." And something changed for me in that moment. Is the idea that knowledge for its own sake, that wasn't tied to an assignment or anything, was not only acceptable or even good, but desirable. It's like that moment in The Wizard of Oz when the house lands and Dorothy's all black and white and everything's all black and white, and she steps out into the Munchkin village and it's all in color. It was that kind of moment. And I didn't really consciously understand then that I wanted to teach, but I had to do something. I mean, that was a gift. I mean, how do you repay that? It came to me. You repay that gift by passing it on, by giving that gift to others. And so I knew, like I said, before I ever finished high school, that I wanted to be a teacher. And I paid attention to the teachers that I liked, and I paid attention to the teachers that I didn't like, because I was learning from them about the kind of teacher I didn't want to be. Joanne Harris, my 9th grade English teacher, you know, Don Braden, my advanced critical thinking teacher. They were two of the big ones. They were two of my biggest influences as a teacher. I recognized that, you know, from Mrs. Harris I learned that I wanted to be the kind of teacher that students love, not because they're easy or because they hand the students everything, but because they expect the best from you. And as a student, I wanted Mrs. Harris to like me. I wanted her to be proud of me. And because she just expected the best from us, and she recognized that sometimes life got in the way of us giving our best, but she didn't allow us to make excuses for that. And then Mr. Braden, hit that advanced critical thinking class, you know, rhetoric and logic. Saved all my notes from. I still have every scrap of paper I ever wrote in that class, and from him I took the idea that, hey, it's okay to challenge the kids, you know, to push them and to expect the best from them, but in a different way from how Mrs. Harris expected our best, to push them to find the limits of their abilities and then to extend beyond that. I had two really good role models in the kind of teacher that I wanted to be. So my fate was sealed at that point.